Have you ever felt like your heart was racing a little too fast? Or maybe you caught yourself short of breath after climbing a few stairs? If you're over 60, these moments might feel more common than they used to, and sometimes they can be unsettling. I know how it feels. As we age, our bodies change, and while that's natural, it also means we need to pay closer attention to certain things, especially when it comes to our heart health. Today, we're going to talk about something that might not come up often in everyday conversation, but is incredibly important: surviving a heart attack alone after sick. Now, I know that sounds serious, and it is, but the good news is that knowledge is power. And if you're watching this video, you're already taking a step toward being prepared. Heart attacks don't always happen with warning, and sometimes they strike when we're completely alone. That's why every senior, especially those over 60, should know what to do in those critical moments. The tips we'll cover today aren't just for emergencies. They're life-saving strategies that can give you peace of mind and empower you to act quickly if needed. Let me share a quick story to illustrate why this matters so much. A few years ago, my neighbor, Mr. Thompson, who was in his early 70s, experienced chest pain one quiet Sunday morning. His wife had gone out to run errands, and he was home alone. He didn't want to bother anyone, so he waited, thinking it would pass. By the time help arrived, it was too late. Now, I'm not telling you this to scare you, I'm telling you this because it could have ended differently. With the right knowledge and actions, Mr. Thompson might still be here today. And that's exactly why we're having this conversation. So, what are these 7 life-saving tips I mentioned? Well, let's start with the first one, which might surprise you. It's not complicated, and it doesn't require any fancy equipment or expensive medications. It simply involves knowing your body. Sounds simple, right? But here's the thing. Many of us ignore the subtle signs our bodies send us until it's too late. Chest discomfort, shortness of breath, fatigue, nausea, these aren't just random occurrences. They're signals. And if you've reached your 60s, it's even more important to listen to them. I remember talking to a friend of mine, Mary, who's in her mid-60s. She told me she used to brush off the occasional tightness in her chest as just getting older. But then, one day, she realized it wasn't normal. She decided to see her doctor, and sure enough, she had some blockages in her arteries. Because she acted quickly, she was able to make lifestyle changes that significantly improved her heart health. Her story isn't unique, and it shows how powerful awareness can be. So, the first tip is this: learn to recognize the signs of a heart attack and take them seriously if you're alone. Don't wait to see if it goes away. Your instincts matter, and trusting them could save your life. But recognizing the symptoms is only the beginning. What do you do once you realize something's wrong? That brings us to the second tip: staying calm and calling for help immediately. Now, I know that's easier said than done. When something scary happens, especially involving your health, panic is a natural reaction. But staying calm is crucial because it helps your body function better under stress. Take slow, deep breaths, focus on each inhale and exhale. This will help keep your heart rate steady and reduce the strain on your cardiovascular system. And then, of course, call emergency services. Even if you're alone, reaching out for professional help is absolutely essential. I know some people hesitate because they worry about bothering others or making a scene. But trust me, there's no such thing as a false alarm when it comes to your heart. Paramedics are trained to handle emergencies, and their job is to get you the care you need as quickly as possible. Here's another piece of advice that might seem small but makes a big difference. Keep a list of emergency contacts near your phone. Make sure it includes family members, close friends, and your doctor's office. Write it down clearly and tape it somewhere visible, maybe on the fridge or next to your landline. If you use a smartphone, program those numbers into speed dial. In an emergency, every second counts, and you don't want to waste precious time trying to remember phone numbers. Now, here's something else to consider. Learning how to perform self-CPR. Yes, you heard that right. While traditional CPR requires 2 hands and someone else to administer it, did you know that there's a technique called cough CPR that can help maintain consciousness during a cardiac event? It's not a substitute for professional medical care, but it can buy you valuable time until help arrives. The idea behind cough CPR is pretty straightforward. If you feel yourself losing consciousness or notice your heartbeat becoming irregular, begin coughing forcefully and rhythmically. Each cough should be deep and prolonged, almost like you're trying to clear your lungs. This action creates pressure in your chest cavity, which can help maintain blood flow to the brain and keep you alert. Again, this isn't a replacement for calling 911, but it's a useful tool to have in your arsenal. Of course, prevention is always better than reaction. That leads me to the third tip: adopting heart-healthy habits now, while you still can. We all know exercise is important, but for seniors, it's absolutely vital. You don't have to run marathons or lift weights. Simple activities like walking, swimming, or even gardening can work wonders for your cardiovascular health. Just aim for at least 30 minutes of moderate activity most days of the week. Diet plays a huge role too. Try to limit your intake of saturated fats, sodium, and added sugars. Instead, fill your plate with fruits, vegetables, whole grains, lean proteins, and healthy fats like olive oil and nuts. These foods not only support heart health, but also contribute to overall well-being. And don't forget about hydration. Drinking plenty of water helps keep your blood flowing smoothly and reduces the risk of clots. Another key habit is managing stress. Stress may not seem directly related to heart health, but chronic stress can wreak havoc on your cardiovascular system. Find ways to relax, whether it's through meditation, yoga, reading, or spending time with loved ones. Taking care of your mental health is just as important as taking care of your physical health. Let's pause here for a moment and reflect on everything we've covered so far. We've talked about recognizing the signs of a heart attack, staying calm and calling for help, practicing self-CPR, and adopting heart-healthy habits. These are all practical steps you can take right now to protect yourself and improve your chances of surviving a heart attack alone. But we're not done, yet we still have several more life-saving tips to explore. As we move forward, I want you to think about how empowered you'll feel once you've mastered these techniques. Imagine being able to handle an emergency with confidence, knowing you've taken every precaution to safeguard your health. That's the goal, not just survival, but thriving, even in the face of adversity. Now that we've laid the groundwork, let's dive deeper into the next set of tips. These will build on what we've already discussed and provide you with even more tools to stay safe and healthy as you navigate life after 60. So, grab a cup of tea, get comfortable, and let's continue this conversation together. After all, your heart deserves nothing less than your full attention and care. Let's keep going, shall we? So far, we've covered some of the most essential steps you can take if you ever find yourself alone during a heart attack. We started by talking about how important it is to listen to your body and recognize the early signs, those subtle but urgent signals that something isn't quite right. Then we moved into staying calm, calling for help, and even touched on the surprising technique of cough CPR. And finally, we emphasized the importance of prevention through healthy habits like regular movement, good nutrition, and managing stress. But there's more we need to talk about, because surviving a heart attack when you're alone doesn't just depend on what you do in the moment. It also depends on what you've done before that moment. That's where the next few tips come in. These are practical strategies you can start applying today's things. You can put in place now so that, should the unthinkable happen, you're not caught off guard. So let's move on to tip number 4. Keeping emergency medications within easy reach. This one might seem obvious, but you'd be surprised how many people don't think about it until it's too late. If your doctor has prescribed medications like nitroglycerin or aspirin for cardiac emergencies, make sure they're not tucked away in some hard-to-reach drawer or buried under other items. Keep them in a clearly marked location somewhere you can grab them quickly. Whether you're in the kitchen, sitting in your favorite chair, or lying in bed, better yet, consider having duplicates. For example, keep one bottle of aspirin in the living room, another in the bedroom, and maybe even one in your bag if you travel often. The idea is to make sure these life-saving tools are always close at hand, no matter where you are, in your home or beyond it. Now, here's something else to consider. Wearing a medical alert bracelet or carrying an emergency card. This might not seem necessary if you live independently and feel fine most days. But trust me, it could be a game changer in an emergency. A simple bracelet or ID tag with information like history of heart disease, takes blood thinners, or allergic to penicillin, gives first responders critical information before they even ask. And if you prefer not to wear a bracelet, carry a small emergency card in your wallet or purse. On it, write down any chronic conditions, current medications, allergies, and emergency contacts. You can even include your doctor's phone number and the hospital you prefer. Think of it as a mini health profile that speaks for you when you might not be able to speak for yourself. Another thing I want to highlight is the value of having a daily check-in system, especially if you live alone. Now, this doesn't mean you have to schedule formal calls or meetings, but it does mean establishing routines that give you peace of mind. Maybe it's agreeing with a neighbor to wave hello every morning, or checking in with a friend or family member via text or phone call at a set time each day. This kind of connection isn't just about safety, it's also about community. It helps prevent isolation, which, believe it or not, can actually impact heart health. Loneliness and social isolation have been linked to higher risks of heart disease and stroke. So by building these small but meaningful connections, you're doing your heart a favor in more ways than one. Now, let's talk about something that doesn't get nearly enough attention. Knowing exactly where your phone is at all times. Sounds simple, right? But in an emergency, being able to reach your phone quickly can literally save your life. Make sure it's charged, within arm's reach, and easy to use even if your hands are shaking or you're feeling weak. If you use a smartphone, program the emergency dial feature so that pressing the power button multiple times automatically connects you to 911. Or set up voice commands like "Hey Siri, call 911" or "OK Google, call for help." These features may seem futuristic, but they're incredibly useful in moments when your hands aren't cooperating the way you'd like. And if you still prefer using a landline, that's perfectly fine. Just make sure it's not too far from where you spend most of your time. Consider getting a cordless model so you can carry it with you from room to room. Also, test it regularly to make sure it works properly, especially if you rely on it as your main line of communication. Here's another point that's often overlooked: learning how to describe your symptoms clearly and confidently. When help arrives, the more specific you can be about what you're experiencing, the better. Instead of just saying, "I don't feel well," try to articulate things like chest pressure, shortness of breath, nausea, dizziness, or pain radiating down your left arm. Paramedics are trained to act fast, but they also rely heavily on the information you provide. So practice describing your symptoms out loud, even when you're feeling fine. Get comfortable using words like tightness, pressure, squeezing, or burning to accurately convey what's happening in your chest or body. It might feel odd at first, but it will become second nature over time, and it could make a big difference in how quickly and effectively you receive care. Now, let's shift gears slightly and talk about something that might surprise you: the importance of knowing your own baseline health numbers. I'm talking about things like your resting heart rate, blood pressure, cholesterol levels, and blood sugar readings. These numbers tell a story about your overall cardiovascular health, and if something changes suddenly, it could be a red flag. For example, if you normally have a resting heart rate of 70 beats per minute and suddenly notice it spiking to 100 without cause, that could be a sign of distress. Similarly, if your blood pressure jumps unexpectedly or you start feeling unusually dizzy or fatigued, those could be warning signs worth paying attention to. The best part, you don't need to go to the doctor every day to track these numbers. Many seniors invest in simple home monitoring devices, like a digital blood pressure cuff or a pulse oximeter, that allow them to check their vitals regularly. Talk to your doctor about which ones might be right for you, and then make it a habit to log your readings once or twice a week. Over time, you'll develop a sense of what's normal for you and what's not. And speaking of habits, let's circle back to something we touched on earlier: emergency preparedness. Beyond keeping medications nearby and knowing how to call for help, there are a few more things you can do to make sure your home is set up for safety. For starters, install grab bars in the bathroom, especially near the toilet and shower. Falls are a real concern as we age, and losing your balance during a heart attack could make an already dangerous situation even worse. Also, consider removing tripping hazards like loose rugs or cluttered walkways. Even small adjustments can make a big difference in preventing accidents. Another smart move: place non-slip mats in high-traffic areas, especially around the bathtub or shower. And if climbing stairs becomes difficult, talk to your doctor about alternatives, like installing a stair lift or rearranging your living space so everything you need is on one floor. Now, I know this might sound like a lot to take in, but remember, none of these steps need to happen overnight. You can start small, maybe by setting a reminder to check your phone's emergency settings, or by writing down your medications and placing them near your phone. Every little bit adds up, and over time, these precautions will become part of your routine. As we wrap up this section, I want to remind you that taking care of your heart isn't just about reacting in emergencies, it's about creating a foundation of health and preparedness. Long before anything happens, by recognizing the signs, staying calm, knowing how to respond, and making smart choices every day, you're giving yourself the best possible chance to survive and thrive, no matter what comes your way. We've made great progress so far, and we're not done yet. In the next part of this video, we'll dive even deeper into the remaining life-saving tips, including how to build a support network, the importance of regular medical checkups, and what to expect after a heart attack. So stay with me, we're on a roll, and there's more wisdom to share. Let's keep going together, because your heart deserves nothing less than your full attention, care, and preparation. Alright, let's keep moving forward together. We've already covered a lot of ground recognizing the signs of a heart attack. Staying calm, calling for help, practicing self-CPR, keeping medications accessible, wearing medical IDs, establishing daily check-ins, knowing where your phone is at all times, describing symptoms clearly, tracking health numbers, and making your home safer. These are all powerful tools in your survival kit, and I hope you're starting to feel more confident about how to handle a cardiac emergency, especially if you're alone. Now it's time to talk about something that doesn't always get the attention it deserves: building a strong support network. Even if you live independently or prefer to do things on your own. I know what some of you might be thinking. I've been taking care of myself for years. Why should I start relying on others now? That's completely understandable. But here's the thing. Having a solid support system isn't about dependence, it's about safety, peace of mind, and giving yourself the best chance possible in any situation. So, tip number 6 is this: establish a small but reliable circle of people who know your health history and can step in quickly if needed. This could include close family members, trusted friends, neighbors, or even local community members. The key is to make sure they understand your medical needs and know what to do in case of an emergency. Let me give you an example. My friend Helen, who's in her late 60s, lives alone but has arranged a simple system with her next-door neighbor, Martha. Every morning, Helen steps outside to water her plants, and if Martha doesn't see her by a certain time, she checks in. It's not intrusive, it doesn't require much effort, but it gives both women peace of mind. And just last year, when Helen wasn't feeling well and couldn't reach the phone, Martha noticed and called for help right away. You don't need a huge group of people watching over you, just 1 or 2 dependable contacts who know what to look for and what to do. Maybe it's a neighbor who walks by your house every day, a friend you speak to on the phone regularly, or a relative who stops by once a week. Let them know you trust them, explain what signs to watch for, and give them clear instructions on how to respond in an emergency. Another great idea is to have a code word or signal that lets someone know you need help without having to say it outright. For example, if you call someone and say, "I think I left the oven on," that could be your way of signaling that something's wrong and they should come over or call for assistance. Or maybe you agree on a specific color of towel placed near your window as a visual sign that you need help. Of course, communication is key. Don't assume people will automatically know what to do. They may genuinely want to help, but unless you guide them, they won't know exactly how. Sit down with your trusted contacts and walk them through your emergency plan. Show them where your medications are kept, explain how to use any medical devices you have, and make sure they know how to contact emergency services if needed. And speaking of emergency services, let's take a moment to talk about knowing your local resources. If you live in a rural area, response times may be longer than in urban settings. If you rely on a landline instead of a mobile phone, make sure your address is clearly posted near the phone so emergency responders can find you quickly. Some communities offer special alert systems for seniors, like medical alarms or emergency pendants. These can be incredibly helpful, especially if you live alone. Now, before we move on, I want to address something that many people hesitate to talk about. What happens after a heart attack? Because, while surviving the event itself is crucial, recovery is just as important. Preparing for that phase ahead of time can make a big difference in your long-term health. That brings us to our final life-saving tip: planning for post-heart attack care and follow-up. Even if you're lucky enough to survive a cardiac event alone, the days and weeks that follow are critical. You'll need ongoing medical care, lifestyle adjustments, and emotional support to ensure a full recovery. Let's start with the basics. Follow-up appointments with your doctor. After a heart attack, regular checkups are essential. Your doctor will monitor your progress, adjust medications if necessary, and help you develop a personalized recovery plan. Make sure these appointments are scheduled in advance, and don't skip them even if you're feeling fine. Sometimes, The most dangerous part of recovery is assuming you're fully healed when there's still work to be done. Next, consider enrolling in a cardiac rehabilitation program. These programs are designed specifically for people recovering from heart attacks, heart surgery, or other forms of heart disease. They typically include supervised exercise, nutrition counseling, stress management techniques, and education on how to prevent future heart problems. Many seniors find these programs invaluable, not only for their physical health, but also for the sense of community and encouragement they provide. If you're unsure whether cardiac rehab is right for you, ask your doctor. Most insurance plans, including Medicare, cover at least part of the cost. And many hospitals and clinics offer flexible schedules to accommodate different lifestyles. But recovery isn't just about medical care, it's also about emotional healing. A heart attack can be a scary, life-changing experience, and it's normal to feel anxious, overwhelmed, or even depressed afterward. That's why it's so important to have access to emotional support, whether that comes from loved ones, support groups, or professional counselors. Many communities offer heart health support groups where survivors share their experiences and encourage one another. Online forums can also be a great resource, especially if mobility is an issue. The goal is to stay connected, express your feelings, and remind yourself that you're not alone in this journey. Now, let's talk about making long-term lifestyle changes to reduce your risk of another heart attack. This includes everything we've discussed so far: eating healthy, exercising regularly, managing stress, quitting smoking, limiting alcohol intake, and staying on top of your medications. But it also means being proactive about your overall wellness. For example, did you know that poor dental health has been linked to heart disease? Keeping up with regular dental checkups and maintaining good oral hygiene is actually a heart-healthy habit. Similarly, getting enough sleep, managing chronic conditions like diabetes or high blood pressure, and staying socially engaged all play a role in cardiovascular health. Think of it this way: your body is a finely tuned machine, and every part works together. When one system is under stress, it affects the whole. So, by taking care of yourself holistically, body, mind, and spirit, you're giving your heart the best possible chance to heal and thrive. As we wrap up this section, I want to leave you with a few final thoughts. Surviving a heart attack alone after 60 is not about luck, it's about preparation, awareness, and action. It's about knowing your body, recognizing the warning signs, and responding quickly and confidently. It's about building a support network, staying informed, and planning for both emergencies and recovery. The 7 life-saving tips we've covered today aren't just theoretical ideas. They're practical strategies you can implement right now to protect your heart and improve your quality of life. And the best part, you don't have to tackle them all at once. Start with 1 or 2 that resonate most with you, and build from there. Progress is progress, no matter how small. Before we move into the final part of this video, I want to thank you for being here and taking the time to learn more about heart health. It takes courage to face difficult topics head-on, and I admire your willingness to prepare for the unexpected. Remember, you are stronger than you think, and you have everything it takes to protect your heart and live a vibrant, fulfilling life at any age. In the next and final segment, we'll bring everything together with a few motivational reminders, a quick recap of the key points, and a heartfelt message to send you off with confidence and hope. So stick with me, we're almost there, and there's still more wisdom to share. Let's finish strong together. You're doing great, and I'm so glad you're still with me. We've already gone through so much together, recognizing the early signs of a heart attack, staying calm, calling for help, practicing self-CPR, keeping medications handy, establishing check-ins, knowing where your phone is at all times, describing symptoms clearly, tracking your health numbers, making your home safer, building a support network, understanding post-heart attack care, and planning for long-term recovery. Each of these steps plays a vital role in not just surviving a heart attack alone after 6-0, but thriving afterward. Now, let's bring it all together with some final thoughts that will help you feel empowered, prepared, and confident in your ability to take care of your heart health. Let me ask you something. Have you ever noticed how quickly time passes when you're focused on living well? One day, you're thinking about retirement, and the next, you're enjoying grandchildren, traveling, gardening, or simply savoring quiet mornings with a cup of coffee. That's what we're protecting here, not just longevity, but the quality of life you've worked so hard to enjoy. And the truth is, heart disease doesn't have to be an inevitable part of aging. Yes, our bodies change as we grow older, that's natural. But by being proactive, informed, and intentional about our health, we can age with strength, dignity, and independence. Let's take a moment to reflect on what we've learned together. You now know that chest discomfort, shortness of breath, fatigue, nausea, or even pain radiating down one arm could be warning signs. You understand the importance of staying calm, calling for help immediately, and even using cough CPR if needed. You've taken steps to keep emergency medications within reach, possibly even set up reminders or duplicates in different rooms. You may have already started organizing your emergency contacts, wearing a medical ID, or checking in with a neighbor regularly. You've also thought about your home environment, making sure it's safe, minimizing tripping hazards, and ensuring your phone is always accessible. You've considered tracking your own health numbers like blood pressure and heart rate, giving yourself a baseline so you can notice changes more easily. And perhaps, most importantly, you've begun to build a small but trusted circle of people who know how to support you in case of an emergency. That's no small thing. In fact, that's powerful. Because knowledge without action is just information. But knowledge with action, well, that's transformation. And you're already on that path. Now, let's talk about something that often gets overlooked in conversations about heart health: the emotional side of survival. After experiencing a heart attack, even if you recover fully, it's completely normal to feel shaken, anxious, or even afraid. You might worry about whether it could happen again. You might feel frustrated that your body isn't responding the way it used to. Or maybe you're struggling with feelings of vulnerability that you didn't expect. If any of this sounds familiar, I want you to know you are not alone. So many seniors go through similar emotions after a cardiac event. The key is not to ignore those feelings, but to acknowledge them. Give yourself grace and seek support when needed. One of the best things you can do for your emotional well-being is to stay connected. Whether it's joining a heart health support group, talking to a counselor, or simply sharing your experience with someone you trust, don't carry the weight alone. Healing isn't just physical, it's emotional, mental, and spiritual too. And speaking of healing, let's revisit the idea of gradual progress over perfection. You don't have to overhaul your entire life overnight to improve your heart health. Start with one small step. Today may be setting a daily reminder to drink more water, or walking around the block for 10 minutes. Tomorrow, add another. Over time, these little habits compound into big results. Maybe you start cooking healthier meals once a week, or commit to seeing your doctor for regular checkups. Maybe you begin journaling about your symptoms, or invest in a simple blood pressure monitor. Whatever you choose, celebrate the effort. Every positive choice you make is a gift to your future self. Another important piece of the puzzle is staying informed. Medicine and health recommendations evolve, and what was true 10 years ago might not be the best advice today. Keep learning. Ask questions during your doctor's appointments. Read reputable sources. Talk to other seniors who have walked a similar path. Knowledge is one of the strongest tools in your health arsenal. And finally, I want to leave you with this. You are capable, you are resilient, and you matter. Aging doesn't mean slowing down, it means growing wiser, stronger, and more attuned to what your body needs. A heart attack may be a serious event, but it doesn't have to define your story. With the right mindset, preparation, and support, you can continue living a full, joyful, and meaningful life. So, as we come to the end of this video series, I want to thank you for allowing me to walk alongside you on this journey. It takes courage to face difficult topics head-on, and I deeply admire your willingness to learn, prepare, and protect your health. Before we wrap up, I'd love to hear from you. If you found this video helpful, please consider liking and subscribing to the channel so you don't miss out on future content. And if you have any personal experiences, tips, or questions, I encourage you to share them in the comments below. Your insights might just help someone else feel less alone or inspire them to take action. Here's to living your best life, fat 60, 70, 80, and beyond. Here's to strong hearts, clear minds, and the joy of every extra moment we get to spend with the people we love. Thank you again for being here. Take care of yourself, stay informed, and remember, you've got this.